Hello and good evening from Germany. This is Jonathan Quell Higgins. Long time no see. Yeah, I'm a little bit conflicted because I really didn't want to stream anymore. On the other hand, I had a couple of conversations with Patel Philippe, my friend Tan Zeal, about this recent incident, and yeah, we probably it may be a good thing to have a discussion about vintage watches, in particular vintage Rolex watches. You know that one of my policies always was we're not talking about Rolex, but I think in this case it's very important because there is a lot of things going on with vintage Rolex watches. So I think the example is good. So good evening, Tanzil.
Oh man, good afternoon from the bridge, Higgins. First time, long time lurker, first time caller here, first time panelist with you on Elite Roger. Now, I will say I did get the notification. So, look, the channel's still alive. So yeah, it's good to have you back. It's good to have you talking about watch topics. And yeah, like I think the last couple of days have been pretty interesting to kind of just see how the situation unfolded with the vintage Rolex, but also like we rarely talk about vintage Rolex anymore. And I was even telling ABC this morning, I'm like, should we consider 5 digits vintage at this point because nobody wants them? And I don't know, maybe it's time to retire the neo vintage moniker. So yeah, no, I'm excited for it, Higgins, and I know there's a lot to talk about, but glad to be back, man. It's gonna be fun.
I know that you're always keen to change history. No, you're opening a different can of worm. If 5 digits not vintage or not.
Well, look, we got time, man. We can walk through. We got lots of time, lots of questions. We got lots of people joining us as well in the chat. So yeah, like whatever you want to go.
You probably have time. I don't have time. No, but you put out a good questions. The 5 digits are now sometimes 25 years old. And do you want to hear my definition of vintage watches?
Definitely. Why don't we start there?
So vintage Rolex, in my opinion, is when they still made tool watches. And in my opinion, Rolex left that path when they introduced the five digits, particularly with the white gold surrounds around the lume plots. Mm-hmm. I think that is the pivotal moment where they changed.
I would say it's a lot earlier for me. I agree with the tool watch assessment. But I believe that, like, I mean, if you look at the 1680s, we're going to the 4 digits. So not even 5 digits, guys. We're going to the 4 digits. The first Rolex Submariner date, 1680, comes out in the, I think it's like the early 60s, maybe late 50s, early 60s, around that time. And they really, I mean, that was the first gold Submariner. It was the first Submariner with a date. It moved away from purely being about a dive watch in the Submariner to, you know, why the hell do you need a date, right? Like Rolex, in my opinion, at the time, early 60s, shifted from the tool watch to a luxury. So
I would agree that one in gold.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Why do you need one in gold, right? Like, to me, I agree with you that the switch from the tool watch to the luxury watch is likely where I would say vintage, you know, may have had its stop, but then you got everything from the 60s all the way up, right? Is not considered vintage, which, I mean, I think today, if we're looking at the YouTube space today, very rarely do people talk about pre-ceramic. We used to talk about it all the time, and now it's just not talked about. People don't want it. It's considered old. So I'm like, why don't we just bring that into the full vintage moniker? Because I think your definition, Higgins, is going to be a little tight, because then, you know, I believe that the tool watch came out or ended around the late 50s. So anything 60s and above is not modern, I don't believe.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a little bit liberal, and everybody knows that I'm a globalist and a liberal. So I'm a little bit more liberal with you regarding the gold items or even the Submariner date. I think you have a good point, but I see those as sins in order to make money. And I agree to a part that it's not necessary, and it's not the pure formula anymore. But you still have the beautiful cases partly covered with wood. Do you remember those beautiful old Rolex cases? Maybe you're able to pull one up, or do I have to pause and search it for myself?
Why don't you search that up? Because yeah, I don't have all of my stuff set up here, but yeah, I can. Why don't while you do that?
Greetings, okay?
Yeah. I'll talk while you do that. Um,
Okay.
I think where I mean Rolex is so vast in terms of like this is what I love about vintage Rolex is it's not just your typical hey let's talk about the bluesy and the bluesy hasn't changed much in like 5-10 years. Like when you look at the depth of vintage Rolex, I mean Rolex was not the vertically integrated machine that they are today. They had multiple suppliers. There was all kinds of inconsistencies across the lineups. And yeah, I mean Rolex. You said it turning into a business. I always saw Rolex as that was always their mantra was market, big marketing, big business. They've always been about that. Even the history of the Submariner itself, like in the Nick Folks book, he talks about right at the start of the book the whole use of the military and how Rolex had sent explorers to one of the Navy ships up north in Scotland, and they were testing the diving of it. Use the Explorer. So it's interesting, how they had, and they weren't even authorized to do that. They had no military contract. They were just simply trying to get some real life testing that they could then market as, a military grade or a diving watch that's branded a certain way. So they've always been about business, Higgins, I think, since the beginning. So I'd say it's tough to define the brand by when they, moved away from being. I don't think they were ever really a enthusiast brand. I think they were always a brand out to make money.
Yeah, I'm still struggling here. I'm a little bit rusty here with this Viking StreamYard, so I'm having a hard time
That's okay.
to pull up that.
Why don't we? Yeah, we could just move on from that. Like, why don't I start?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I start by asking you kind of vintage Rolex, right? So a lot of this conversation has come out from the situation that we saw with Chris and Oshin and whatnot. But let's go. Let's just start with vintage Rolex. So you've obviously owned a lot of vintage pieces. I think you have some prepared that you were going to show on the show today.
Yep.
When you first are looking or recommending vintage to somebody, what do you tell them to look for, to look out for? And do you even encourage them to even look into vintage?
I tell them to be fucking careful. So yeah, that's what everybody says, and I'm a little bit in a pickle tonight because I don't want to scare people away from vintage Rolex because in my opinion, vintage Rolex watches are just beautiful, and they are worth collecting. And I see this show tonight. Oh, we have 30 Danny here in the background. Hey, Danny.
Danny!
Guten Tag, my brother.
Guten Tag. Finally, one sentence that I understand from you.
This is going to be good. We got Danny on the panel. Vintage. This is going to be good, Higgins.
Before we're talking vintage Rolex watches, Danny had my YouTube moment for 2026 already. Nothing can beat that when Danny was on that electric bike and tried to kill himself on that hill. I was laughing my ass off.
Oh, did you see that?
Yes, I saw that.
Tires
and Danny
up on road tires on it, so struggled.
I was gonna say, Danny's recently picked up a vintage Rolex himself. You got a 1680 red sub. Danny, you're obviously very familiar with vintage. Higgins and I are kind of going through right now when you hopped in. Whether you would recommend somebody getting into vintage and what you would look for and what you wouldn't look for. So obviously, we'd love to hear your take as well on it. Higgins actually has a watch up. This is your piece, right? 5513.
Yeah, that is my Submariner 5513. I was very hesitant in buying a vintage Submariner because I've been always a GMT guy, and I've been owning a vintage GMT for a very long time. Actually, this I still own. That is my 16750, which is the same watch that you can see on Magnum PI. And I always considered myself being a GMT guy, and I was resisting everybody. You're a Bond guy, so you must have 5513. But then there was this guy in Hong Kong, and he was so persistent selling me this watch. He told me, you will never find a watch with this quality dial. You must get it, and so on and so on. So long story, I bought it, and I didn't regret it because it's absolutely immaculate.
I've got to say that is fucking mint.
Yeah, I would.
But don't say mint. Don't say mint, Danny.
What would you like me to say then?
it is beautiful, and the dial is almost perfect. But with mint, I'm very careful. In my opinion, and I'm not a native speaker, mint means it's usually a grading for coins, and it means it comes fresh out of the mint. So it comes fresh out of the press. The coin is not used at all, and that is my definition of mint. So if you compare that then with watches, it's basically new or old stock.
Oh my God, Higgy, you're so OCD with the terminology. Jesus Christ.
Fucking hell.
What I was gonna say was, I think you had it spot on, Higgins, when you mentioned when the guy who was selling it to you talked about the dial, right? Like, what I recommend to people getting into vintage Rolex, and this is vintage Rolex we're talking about, not all vintage watches, but vintage Rolex specifically. All of the magic happens in the dial. All of the value, or the majority of the value, is in the dial. Whether that's the lume plots, the hands, really the condition of the dial, the originality of the dial, what type of dial it is, that really matters. And when I saw a lot of the YouTubers this week, or the past week and a half, talking about, they're trying to value the price of the 5513. And I was telling Jonathan, I was like, I think a lot of folks don't understand that the 5513 had a massively long run, right? Something like 20 some plus years. So there's a lot of
the longest running model, actually.
I don't know if the 5513 or the 1016 are. One of those two ran for like 20, 30 years. Both of them did, actually. But I always tell people, I say, when you're looking at vintage Rolex, the dial is everything. And when you have all these YouTubers that are like, oh well, let's just look at the value, they don't understand all these sub variants, Danny. Like, you got an Explorer dial version of the 5513, you got a mill sub version. They can go into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So going high to low and saying, oh, the guy got a good price or not, I mean, you'd really need to know what type of 5513 that was.
Actually, there is a funny comment from Jimmy. He said that this is a watch Oshin described to Chris. So
I think that's a good point to talk about, Jonathan, because when you bought this watch, right, like, you're very meticulous in asking questions and getting pictures, or even you might have been there in person. Yeah. But you ask questions, and where do you think, because obviously we've seen some of the photos from the Oshin photos. They're not the best photos. Like, when you're buying vintage, what do you recommend people ask and look for?
Well, the first problem is when you have to ask. In my opinion, it's the duty of the seller with vintage watches to provide the potential buyer with as much and with as good information as possible. So when I have to ask all the questions, that means the pictures are crap, or the seller is trying to hide something from me. Usually, that is the first red flag.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Danny? But, in your side too, would you be asking the same things?
I agree, because you want to get these pictures in the natural light. Go outside and take the pictures in the natural light, so you can show every scratch that's on it, so it can't come back to you. And people can. I mean, first of all, I wouldn't have fucking bought it off a guy on YouTube regarding that thing, but stuff to look out for. First thing, I'd probably look at the bezel insert to see if it's been changed. I could live with that.
Can you identify that, Danny?
You can. Fat font insert.
I'm asking him. I'm asking him, Danny. Can you see?
Well, on the pip, if it's not been changed, it's the creamy patina, and how the font around it is less modern technology.
Yeah, I agree. On some bezels you can see it, on some you can't. That is my point. And I know that Tanzil, you have a very good memory. You memorize all the fonts and all the details, Mark 1, Mark 5, Mark whatever. I'm too lazy or too stupid to remember all this. But I'm looking at things and ask myself, does this make sense or not? So this particular watch is not beaten up too much. So it's plausible that this is an original insert, particularly with the lume pip. But I think the lume pip has been improved, because most of those pips have gone to crap over those years. We're talking about 55-year-old watches. But on Chris's watch, for example, this watch has been through hell and back, and maybe another time to hell. And in my opinion, that bezel insert is too black, the color, and so it raises some alarm signs. I'm not 100% sure if it's original or not. Doesn't really matter, because it has those 3 gauges that destroy every collector value anyhow, even if it's a vintage one.
Yeah, I would say that. Look, there's in vintage Rolex. I think we'll start with the basics, right? Like all the magic's in the dial. Like if you want to know all the value of a vintage Rolex is going to be in the dial. Okay, then you kind of have secondary pieces to what's important. Insert is important, but it's not. Yes. It would not be as important necessarily as a matching hands for loom plots, right? All right, we're not using like fucking very very niche use cases of like a Bakelite bezel, for example, right? Like,
this is not a Bakelite bezel, but
I'm not saying that it is, but I'm saying
this bezel insert is worth a lot of money because of the blue jeans fading that you see here. So there are some bezel inserts, and particularly the Bakelites, just like
yes, they can enhance the value. I agree. If you go back to the original photo, so what I was saying was certain things are acceptable where you can change it to be period correct. And we're going to get into restoration and stuff a little later. But when you buy this watch, if I'm buying a 5513, I want original hands. I want original loom. Like Danny said, he's looking at the loom pip. Does it match the loom plots? Does it match the hands? It looks pretty darn good to me. I mean, this is one of the nicest levels of patina I've seen on a 5513. I don't really like the pumpkin color. My 1680 red was like an eggshell white, which looked really nice. But again, there's certain things you can change, certain things you can't. Like in my example, the 1680 red that I had, the insert was not original. So what I ended up doing was I ended up sourcing a period correct fat font insert and popping it in. And that's okay. That's acceptable in vintage Rolex. When we get into like restoration, we'll talk about a little later, that's where it can get a little dicey. But if you're looking to buy a vintage Rolex, you want to make sure the originality of the dial. So looking at the piece that Chris got from O'Sheen, I mean, maybe the dial was original. I heard Tim Wright saying that like it's common for inserts to be cracked. I mean, it's not true.
No,
like it's not common for them to be cracked. But the loom on that watch was terrible. Like I would be looking for a discount because I'd say, look, the watch may be original, but the loom is flaking off. Or you could even see it in the photos. You didn't have to see it in the hidden stuff that he said the loom plots had the problem. You could see it on the fucking hands.
The problem is not only that the loom has problems. The deeper questions for that is, why is that?
Because I think he swapped dial on it. I honestly do.
Maybe, right?
Could be.
He's got an old. I think he's got an old refinish dial that were there. Bought one off eBay for 150 quid because it's easily done. Sold the other dial because the other dial looked on O'Sheen's picture from the picture. It looked quite a nice dial. It were all flat. All indices were all flat. But this looked like it. When they reloom them and it's got like if you put glue on something, it's got that bubble on it and it looks like it don't look like it's naturally come off. It looks like it's been put on and come off.
I would say, Danny, the reality too is, I mean, O'Sheen may not have even known that. Like he's not an expert from what I've seen in vintage Rolex. Yeah. So this is difficult. Like this is a hobby or a sub part of the hobby where there's a lot of detail. You got to get your shit right. You have to know, like, for example, if I were trying to assess what Danny said, I would look at the year the watch was made. I would try to compare it. And even then, Danny, you and I both know that, like, there could be sub-variants, right? A Bart Simpson dial versus an underline dial versus an Explorer dial. Like, there's all different kinds of variants in it, right? So it is a minefield like that.
Even just a little underscore dial makes so much difference money-wise. It looks like someone scratched the dial, but it's actually meant to be there.
Yeah. So Higgins, you buy this original 5513 with excellent patina, looks like the original insert. It's a fat font insert. Like this is a good example of a 5513, but I would be asking all kinds of questions on the originality of the dial and the originality of the insert. You know, he ended up complaining about the bracelet. It was like a 93150 bracelet, which is like the service bracelet, that's generally okay, guys. Like
this particular watch has a service bracelet as well. It's not the original bracelet anymore.
Right, and like I said, most of the money's in the dial. If
Yeah.
the dial is original, if all of this is original, as Higgins is describing, like him having a service bracelet does not matter. Even the movement, guys, like honestly, like having replaced parts in the movement does not matter. You're not getting the original parts of the 5513 that came from this watch in the 60s or 70s. You're getting serviced parts. And so therefore, like a lot of collectors don't necessarily care that the movement's been serviced and there's newer parts. Like that's fine. It's all about the dial, guys. It's all they care about.
Yeah, I partly disagree with the movement parts because there are so many aftermarket parts now out, and I would be careful not using aftermarket parts. I think aftermarket parts certainly affect the value negatively, but in general, I agree with you. Value is in the dial. We have a question here from Jimmy, who's asking, does that include the hands? Yes and no. I personally am a little bit more liberal with the hands. What you have to know about the hands is Rolex didn't use white gold on those vintage sports models, and those have a tendency to corrode. And also that lume, particularly the lume here in the Mercedes hand, has a tendency to crack. So it's quite common that people are trying to restore those hands or replace them, or even paint the lume on the hands, which is the case, by the way, on this 1675. The lume in the hand is painted. I can live with it because otherwise it's a beautiful watch. So for me personally, the hands are secondary. They are not the super important part. But of course, it's nice to have original hands. There is no doubt about that.
Well, if you look at your GMT, right, like if that had original hands that match the lume plots, it would be worth more money than having the lume painted to match, right? Like that's just how it is. That's just how it is. So yeah, like I'm a bit more hardcore, hard line on this, Jimmy, where to me it's the hands, it's the lume plots, it's the dial itself. That is a non-negotiable of originality, and or to be disclosed if it's not original. I think is because that's like a huge amount of the money. If the insert's not the correct one, sure, you can go to vintage Rolex forums and source like a ton of these inserts. It's not hard. Bracelets, same thing, right? So
you can also source a vintage set of hand, by the way.
You can, right? But then you're working against, because if you kind of see the lume of this watch compared to your GMT has like a pumpkinish fade to it, whereas this one is more cream. Like that's very pumpkin. So yeah, you could find hands, but you'd have to look for hands that really match, and that's going to be difficult.
Right shade, it's difficult.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult, right? That's why with vintage Rolex, guys, it's so deep like that. It's so you have to know every single piece of it, and you got to ask questions. So if the pictures are blurry or they simply don't show everything, like I've seen the photos, I was like, dude, like I would have asked for more photos, Danny. Like I wouldn't have.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
and if you said to me, "Oh, I'm too busy," well, if you're too busy to sell something for fucking $7,500, then I won't bother dealing with you. Because we're not talking 50 quid. We're talking about it's a different category in it, vintage. So you want to know as much as you can. And he could have just quite easily said, "Oh, I'm busy at minute, but tomorrow I'll go outside and I'll take some pictures in light." And it's that easy. And he didn't do that on purpose because he knew it were fucked.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with you. That is another red flag, and I still don't understand why Chris was not more persistent. Probably it is that effect that we also had with Timepiece Gentleman. Do you remember when TPG was on Tim Wright Tan, and he said, "Well, we did that blackout that people reflect on which people they trust." And I was just making that remark, yes, and not some people who are bragging their watches on YouTube. And I think that is a recent problem, that people find YouTubers in particularly trustworthy, which they are usually not. So yeah, I'd be very careful buying from very well-known YouTubers because they have They have the experience. They know the tricks, and some of them are not really shying away from ripping you off because they have the larger microphone.
I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate for you on that one. While I do generally agree with everything you're saying, let's kind of look at what Chris had to work with at the time, right? Like, Oisin O'Malley is a fairly large YouTuber, has hundreds of thousands of subs. There isn't or has not been too much talk of him doing bad deals or whatever it is. The only time we really ever heard him talk about bad deals was when bad deals were done with him, against him, like the whole bezel thing with BQ watches and everything else. Like, seeing that and seeing a guy who apparently was, that anal to talk about a bezel, right? Like, you would expect him to be, have a little bit more attention to detail, like you could say, when it comes to these types of watches. So, I mean, I think Chris had, in his mind, probably some level of trust in Oisin. He did say, "Oh, I wasn't a big fan" or whatever, but I think when you add it all up, that there was not necessarily a reason to, believe that there was going to be any kind of an issue. And even then, even during the process, Jonathan, like, he got the pictures from Oisin. He could have asked for more, right? Like, he didn't have to just accept whatever Oisin gave him.
Yeah. So I see Chris is in the comments, and I dropped the link for him. So Chris, you're welcome to hop on. We are not about to roast you here. That is not what we're usually doing. We just try to find out what happened and give a kind of neutral assessment here. So I'm not going to criticize you overly or roast you. I think you're the one who has been betrayed. And the question is, how are we moving on? So the link has been.
Come on, Higgy. Higgy, we're running a show here. There has to be some entertainment, right? Like,
well, that is up to you. I'm not doing.
No. If Chris hops on, you got to tell him you're richer than him, right? I am richer than you. What I'll tell you, Chris, if you do hop on, is you got 3 people here on the panel that have all owned vintage Rolexes, have experience in vintage Rolex. Higgins sold Rolexes many years ago. Like, he knows, and I know, and Danny knows, like, we all have experience in this. So, we'll be able to give you more of a discussion, I'd say, from people that actually buy vintage Rolex. I think the panels you've been going on, none of those panels, from what I can see, are have ever collected vintage Rolex.
And we'll go one further. We've even got a guy that made a neo vintage into a vintage Rolex.
Oh.
That is true, man. That is true.
Just let that go. Can you just let that go?
The Kermit, baby. The Kermit.
Let me rejoin, because I've had to send the link to my Facebook to go on Facebook, and this screen's so small. But Iggy's put link up now, so I'll rejoin on.
Cool.
Okay, Danny, I will kick you off because I'm afraid of having audio problems. So I'll kick you off and you come back.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
That's...
So like, I think that what Chris was going off of at the time, there wasn't really any reason for concern. But how he went about it is really where I'm curious to hear your opinion, Jonathan. So maybe there is some trust. Like, there's no reason to say Oisin's going to fuck him over or whatever. Where did he go wrong in that kind of initial phase before he actually made the purchase?
I think he said it himself. 1 second. Let me try to find his post. Because he...
Okay, while you're doing that, you could pull up Swiss's post, because I like this post from Swiss. Our good friend Swiss in the chat.
1 second. Okay. I'm not going to comment on that, but Swiss, you're welcome to hop on the panel. So 1 second. No. Yeah, I think that is exactly what I was describing. Chris is saying, no, I wasn't starstruck. I thought I knew the guy, and that is one of those pitfalls, in my opinion. When you see people on YouTube and you think you know them, actually you don't. And that is exactly, if you call it starstruck or overly confident in a person that you basically don't know, that is up to you. Oisin has a story of tweaking things. When he's a seller, he's very liberal with everything. When he's a buyer, that is a total different thing. I saw a comment today saying if O'Sheen would have bought that watch that he sold to Chris, then this would be great content on all those shows, because he would basically rip the seller apart, because he knows exactly what is going on. Danny, are you back?
I'm back now, yeah.
I think that matters less about knowing the person and what have you in that sense. Like, it's obviously better to buy from someone you trust in that case, but does he have to? I mean, I don't know David SW intimately, like, so I'll still buy a watch from him because of many things, and I'll ask questions, right? Like, I think where he went wrong in the buying process was he may not have gone deep enough, and whatever O'Sheen gave him, at least to me, wouldn't have been acceptable. It wouldn't have led me to a purchase. I'm curious from your guys' perspective, like, how would you have gone about it differently? Would you have asked more questions? Would you have asked for more photos? What would you guys have done differently?
Well, I said it yesterday on a different stream. O'Sheen failed to give Chris a proper description of the watch, and he failed to give him proper pictures of the watch.
Sure.
Now, Chris was asking for more. O'Sheen found all kind of excuses why not giving it to him. So it's basically his turn then to make his promises true. He told him, "You're going to love the watch." He told him it's minty, which is total nonsense in my opinion. And so it's up to O'Sheen then to deliver. And when he doesn't deliver what he promised, it's time to take it back. Now, to O'Sheen's credit, he offered to take it back. It's not that easy, and O'Sheen knows that exactly, because you simply can't ship a watch back from the US to Europe, because here in Europe, the customs will seize it and will demand 21 or 22% value-added tax. And O'Sheen won't be paying for it, and I'm pretty sure Chris won't be happy to pay for that. So that makes it extra difficult to return the watch. And I have a little bit the feeling that O'Sheen will find more excuses why he's not willing to refund the money in full, even if he has the watch in hand. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, you established that O'Sheen had an intent to deceive by not providing more photos, which Chris asked for. For me, that's a deal breaker right there. I would, if Chris is listening, I mean, I would have walked away from the deal. I had a similar example with the Wizard. The Wizard found out that I was trying to buy a 5212 Patek Philippe weekly calendar, reached out to me on Instagram. Hey, I've been in business for 40 years. Like, the guy lives like an hour from me, and didn't realize that I like moderated the Canadian like watch sales forums like for years. I'm like, I know all the dealers in Canada, and I never heard of this guy. So I started name dropping people that he may know just to see if they could, tell me a bit about this guy. Nobody knew this guy. So right then and there, even though, Toyota Mo had bought something from other people, I was just like not comfortable with it. I was like, something stinks, and I'm going to walk, because again, Chris, this isn't a mill sub. This is a regular run of the mill 5513 that they produced for 30 fucking years, bro. Like, you could have found another one. Then there's lots out there. That's the way I see it.
Do you know what I think?
Go for it.
I think it went, seeing the 3512 sold, and he got a bit of FOMO, thinking, "Oh, this is gonna. I need to make a decision now and buy it in case I miss out on this." So he got a bit of FOMO and ended up buying it, hoping that it'd be like what it says. I could be wrong.
So Thomas is sending me pictures of the watch. Thomas, thank you very much for it. But in all honesty, I don't want to repeat everything and make another kangaroo court of what happened to Chris. I would like to make it a little bit more constructive, to explain people what is going on, what is possible, what to look after, and what is in particular important when you're buying vintage watches. And so we all have seen the pictures, I think, and the watch looks, in my opinion, awful. Some people were defending it and said, well, that is how a $10,000 5513 looks like. I disagree. I would.
Yeah, anybody who's saying that does not know anything about fucking vintage Rolex.
Yeah,
If that's
yeah.
what they're saying, I'll tell you that right straight up. I don't give a fuck. I'm not trying to sugarcoat shit, Higgy. I will tell anybody who says that looks like a 10,000. Like, you don't know shit. Like, you don't know
That's
what
why
the fuck
you're
you're
here.
talking about. Yeah. Like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, I would ask them how many vintage Rolex they've actually owned,
Mm.
and then compare it to what I've owned, because I'd be like, dude, like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, just a fucking. It's like Meccano, and it's just put together with bits. Bit looks of it. This watch. This is a watch.
Yeah.
If you don't want to put the money fully in, that you can experience it. So, like, I'd say English money, $5,000 to $5,500 at a push, and do note with it.
Yeah, so this is where Chris is saying he did, and the guy lied. Like right away, Chris. Like, I don't know what that means by lie. Like, he lied about not being able to give you more photos, or he gave you more. Like, I mean, I would be looking for a shot like this, top down on the dial, not some fucking side shot, because like you said, certain loom plots could be flaking and everything else. If he's not willing to give you that, Chris, I would have walked on the deal right then and there. It is not a one of one. Like, there's thousands of them out there. Why would you have to pursue it any further, guys? Like, I don't understand why you would.
Well, in all honesty, I've been making mistakes like that as well. Very often, I'm caught in the heat of the moment, in a kind of buyer's fever. I know at 5513 you can find plenty of good, so I can see that argument. But sometimes I'm kind of committed to a purchase, and I'm buying it and then having later remorse. So I understand a little bit that hunting fever that you have. I don't want to give Chris that hard time, but in general, Tan, you have a point, and maybe we all learn from that, and just identify the red flags when you just walk away or say, okay, it's up to you. Then I'm gonna look for another watch.
So Vimal's got a question. Panel, how much would the swap be worth now that we know all the facts? Like, Vimal, you can find cleaner examples for 8 or 9. Like, cleaner. Maybe the hands don't match or whatever, right? Like, the fact that Chris has to restore this watch, which is a topic we're definitely going to get into here, like, I would be looking for a significant discount. 6, 5, 5. Like, again, they're not scarce watches. Like, if you've got a mucked example of a 5513 that Chris has to go through with restoration, it's not worth that much. You know what I mean? Like, it really isn't.
Let's be honest. The watch that Chris received is not a watch that Frollo would put in his window. So that my guess is that O'Sheen got it that way, because this doesn't look good to clients who are looking in a vintage watch store.
And let's just stop right there, right? Like, because Chris said, he kind of knew who O'Sheen was. He had watched some of the videos and whatnot. Like, if you ever watch O'Sheen, like, he doesn't have prime examples of pieces. Like, his gold sub is a pre-ceramic gold sub. It's an older gold sub. Okay. He doesn't have a premium Royal Oak. He has the Chrono. Like, it's an okay watch, but it's not like, it's not the 16202. It's not like a primo pieces. His Patek, he's got the same world time as me, not special, 5230. Like, the guy himself kind of buys value pieces in that sense, you could say. So that makes a lot of sense in this watch, because he probably was like, shit, I can buy a vintage Rolex for cheap, and it's speed up, but that's, I can sell it. That's how it's supposed to be. Well, most people who know vintage Rolex know that that's not the case. So when I hear Tim Wright saying, "Oh yeah, like, cracked inserts are normal," I'm like, dude, this fucking guy is never. I remember seeing this guy on a live stream, Higgins, and he walked. It was at the Miami Antique Show, and he walked past a mill sub, and the mill sub has a little T on the dial. He's like, "Oh, look, a tritium sub," and I was like, "Man, this guy is so fucking dumb." Like,
okay, I was just trying something out, so now I can open tabs.
Chris is asking. Sorry,
the thing is, right? It's not even worth restoring this watch that Chris has got, because the only thing in it that's original is the movement, and because the case back, it's not the original case back. The case is fucked because it's shorter on one side than other, so it'd have to get micro welded, whatever you call it. You need a new dial, new hands. Could live with insert, and then time he's done that, it's still an 100% because then he's had to buy a new case and it's still odds and ends put together.
It's restored too, right? It's going to have that moniker of being restored. And I mean, Higgins, you've sold pieces that have been modified. Like your market, your market of buyers significantly shrinks at that point because people don't want a restored, Rolex. In vintage, it's like cardinal sin, right? Like people stay away from it. So it's your kind of. I didn't even see the point of why you would do restoration. You're spending all this money, like you're not making the watch more valuable. Technically, you should probably keep it untouched, and I would say now, Higgins, you can disagree with this. I think you would get more bang per buck or more value if you kept it original than restoring everything else. Because a restored piece, I'd be asking half value, and there's not going to be a lot of buyers that are going to bump.
That is what I was about to say. Now he's saying 6,000 for a restoration of this particular watch. Add to the 10,000 that he paid for that. This means 16,000 then for a watch that still is way far from perfect or has been touched up basically. So for 16,000, you probably get decent 5513, and that would be the better decision in my opinion. Now. Chris is asking, can you guys tell me a place where I can dump this without feeling like I'm screwing them like I got screwed? And how much you think I can get realistically? I've never sold a watch before. So, Chris, one remark. I heard that, I'm not sure if it was Sean, but Sean offered to take the watch back to O'Sheen to take personally care of it, and I would take Sean up on this. I will vouch for Sean, no problem, and you're in good hands there. So I think that is the first line of action. If you don't want to do that for whatever reason, I would suggest that you just drop in on eBay or in Gumtree with decent pictures of the dial and also of the case and the bracelet and
fuck it, man. Fuck it. If you don't want to trust Sean, right? Spend $1,000, fly over to Venice yourself, and get your money back. You will would probably get more money if you got. Let's say it's $1,000 to fly to Venice or something from where he's at. So so Ocean's obviously not going to give him money for the airfare, but he would get $9,000 back or whatever the fuck he paid, $1,000 off of that, versus like he's going to get trucked on restoration value if he restores it, and or like he's trying to do is trying to dump it on. Like I would recommend you go to an actual vintage dealer. There's a lot of them out there. I can recommend you a few. Like Tropical Watch is a good one. I think they're on the West. I think Chris said he's on the West Coast. Tropical Watch over on the West Coast, pretty well known. But there's a lot of them, and they'll give you fair value for your piece. It's obviously not going to be private sale value, but because you're dealing with a dealer. But yeah, like for me, guys, like I'd spend $1,000, fly to Venice, hand him the watch, get my money back, walk away. You'd probably have more money in your pocket.
I dumped some watches that I didn't like on Gumtree, the German equivalent, with the pictures. Never had problems. Very quick and easy transactions. So in my opinion, Chris should look for $6,000 or $7,000 US. Would you estimate that being a fair value?
Even then, right? Like, why not just pay the money to go over there and get $9,000?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm trying to give Chris advice. Like, I think everybody's kind of talked about it, Chris. They've either used your story for content. Either way, right? Like we've seen it across a lot of channels, not any one channel. What we're trying to do is give you actual advice. And if you think about it, like if you just think dollars and cents, whatever it would cost you to go to Venice, subtract that from what he would give you, like you will not get that amount, in my opinion, from a dealer for this watch.
Chris, I'll be very, very frank with you. I understand what you're saying. I'm not going there. That asshole doesn't have the money to pay me. We all know that. And I would guess that if you go there personally, you would have a hard time and probably fly back with the watch in hands. With the avenue with Sean is different because Sean has a certain influence on O'Sheen. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to work. The problem, Chris, and I'll be very honest with you, if you don't want to give the watch to Sean, or if you don't want to fly over to Venice, then just dump the watch, just like I said, Gumtree, eBay, or a professional dealer. But then you should please shut up. You can't keep on complaining and not giving O'Sheen the possibility to take the watch back, no matter how realistic it is that he pays you back. But my advice is, okay, you have to make a decision. You fly to Venice, you give it to Sean, or please then shut up about the case and just dump it just the way that we told you. But keeping on complaining and basically not giving O'Sheen any chance to take back the watch for a refund is not fair, in my opinion, as well. Not sure what how you see that.
Yeah, like I think I wouldn't dump the watch personally. And this is where you're going to see differing opinions, Chris. Like everybody here is going to attack it a different way. Like I believe that O'Sheen has way more to lose than 10 grand. If you actually went there and it was shown that he did not want to meet you for a refund, like he's got a lot more to lose in terms of like perception of his channel. He's done this to other people, so there are a lot of big players that are probably watching this scenario, and like this is a standard deal gone wrong. Like this isn't like sensational fucking news. This is a standard deal gone wrong, and if he's willing to make it right and give you the money back, great. Like Jonathan said, if you're not willing to do that, you got to shut up and just deal with it and sell it. Like, but I would not do that. I would go there, whether you think he's going to do it or not. If he doesn't do it, obviously record it. And look, you know a lot of outlets out there like the Franchise Club and others that know the people that would want to know the information specifically because, like I said, O'Sheen's got a lot more to lose than 10 grand if he stiffs you on the watch. And so I think that's enough deterrent for him to actually just go through with it.
Danny, any brilliant thoughts?
I would just try to sort something out, so I missed half of it. Sorry.
So I keep on posting the link for Chris to hop on. Apparently it doesn't work, but I think my StreamYard link is the correct one. So
yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
Vimal, he did offer a refund. This was a bit of the interesting part of this story was Chris, being an individual, struggled with his ability to ship it back. He can't just walk into FedEx and say, I want to insure this for 10 grand. FedEx will say it's jewelry. You've got a maximum of $500 and that's it. Even USPS registered mail, you can insure stuff up to 50 grand, but it limits itself when it goes international. So I guess, and just like Jonathan said, O'Sheen probably knew that, having lived in the US. And so I think that that's where, if he's offered the refund, I don't think Chris believes it. I would still go out there. O'Sheen's got a lot more to lose by stiffing somebody on 10 grand. And yeah, I mean, his channel is probably the way he makes money, right? So it could be a really big hit to him if he fucks someone over for 10 grand.
Yeah, quite to the contrary. I think when Chris is refusing to participate in any kind of solution of that issue, he throws water on the mills of those who criticize him, and this happened yesterday and the day before. So they are turning around basically, and now O'Sheen is the victim because Chris is trying to scam him. In my opinion, Chris should be a little bit cooperative, more cooperative than he has been, or just dump it silently somewhere. Tan, would you say 665 US is a fair amount to estimate that watch, or?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, because I've seen better examples up for 8 and 9, right? I definitely 665 would be fair. Again, I don't. It's going to be difficult, especially if he restores it. I would. My first piece of advice to you, Chris, if that's actually you listening, is do not restore that watch. Number one, keep it as is. And you look, if you don't try, I guess part of the issue, Higgins, is Chris doesn't trust O'Sheen. He doesn't want to go out there. Fine. Doesn't want to sign up for the refund. Fine. He needs to eat that and own that that's a mistake. I'm not going to grill the guy for making a mistake. It doesn't matter how many watch deals he's done in the past. Like vintage Rolex is a beast in and of itself. Like it's difficult and challenging for even people that have been collecting for 20 years. So it doesn't matter. So I'm not gonna judge you for that, but you're gonna have to own the fact that like you're gonna have to take a loss. Probably go 6.5. If you want to go to a dealer, you may get 5.5 from like a tropical watch, but they will know what it is and they will tell you exactly what it is, and they will pay for exactly what it is because that's what they do day in day out as their business. So that's my advice to you. I think that you're not gonna solve it any other way if you don't have that trusted Ocean is going to give you the money back.
So Vilmal is asking an interesting question here. Tan didn't know on the insurance part, so this makes international purchase risky. What if I have to return a Chrono 24 purchase within the 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean So Vimal, I came into this problem. So again, this is a vintage Rolex story. Gone, just bad. Similar issue, then not the similar as Chris, but I bought a Datejust. I think it was a sapphire crystal Datejust in the past, and this was off eBay, and I received the watch, and the clasp actually was not. It was an original clasp, but it was from a two-tone, and I had a steel piece. So I was, and the seller was like, "Yeah, just send it back, no problem, no issues." I go to I think it was FedEx at the time, and at the time actually for us in Canada, you couldn't ship a Rolex out of Canada because of trademark issues. Now that's changed, I believe, over the years. But at the time, it was just like if you said it was a Rolex, they were not going to ship it at all, even to the U.S. So there are complications in that case. For us, like I mentioned Parcel Pro to Jonathan in private and whatnot. Parcel Pro is available to certain collectors. There are certain collecting groups in Canada that have access to Parcel Pro, which is like a kind of a corporate type of shipping. Where you can get insurance from Parcel Pro for that amount to send it internationally. So there are ways to do it. It's not as straightforward as just going to your post office box.
Yeah, unfortunate. But I posted a link to Ferrari couriers who are located in Italy. They are very reputable. I shipped watches of 200,000. Actually, my Lange perpetual calendar has been shipped to Lange, to the factory by them. So they're doing also in international shippings. The problem is, again, you need paperwork. It's a lot of work because you have to fill out forms. You have to inform them, write pro forma invoices, and if you're using any kind of courier, it will be stopped at the border in Italy, and they will demand 21 or 22% tax. Good evening, Thomas Burnett.
Thomas.
Good evening from England. How are you doing? From the United Kingdom.
How are you, my friend?
How are you doing, Jonathan?
Yes.
Good to see you all. Glad to see the phoenixing of the channel.
Don't put too many hopes on it. This is a one and done, and I'm going to disappear after that one again.
We just need to have more controversial watch topics, Thomas. That's kind of that's a problem. I tried to get Higgy to do a Christmas stream months ago, and there just wasn't enough juice. Like it wasn't.
No. That's not true. Actually, I was about to do that just for you. Before you fucked me over, but I was about to do that just for you. But then this entire doxing thing just started a couple of hours before, and I thought it's getting so crazy and ridiculous that I'm not coming back at that time. So that was the story.
All we needed was a scandalous watch situation, Thomas, to get old Higgy's opinion. Because I've been talking to Higgy, like obviously offline about it, and he had a lot of opinions, Thomas. I'm excited that he sent me a message this morning. It was impromptu, out of nowhere. I wake up, hey, let's do a stream at 2:00 Eastern. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Like, I'm not gonna say no. So
absolutely.
So Thomas, what's your thoughts on Chris's situation? Like, again, we're not trying to dog the guy about anything. It's just giving him advice on what you would do if you're in this spot.
It's a hard situation. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why Chris can't trust Sean. He can get it in writing from Oisin. Sheen's probably sick of the emails by now, because apparently there's been 200 emails back and forth. But he's been on several live streams. He's been on the Franchise Club. He's been on Tim Wright's stream. He's had. This seems to be a topic of numerous videos on numerous channels and live streams, and it's getting tiresome now. To be honest with you, I think Chris really should just, sort of grow up a bit. And I hate to be harsh. I hate to sound harsh, but he's okay. He doesn't need to fly out to Venice. He's had several offers put on the table. Fly out to Venice, give the watch to Sean, who's going to Venice, which is the option I would take. He's based in Los Angeles, which is the same as Chris. He can give it to Sean in the confidence that Sean is a true gentleman, has a friendly relationship with Sheen, and will take it in trust. I'm sure, and all he needs is validation from Sheen that he will get his money back. So he just needs to get a message from Sheen, an email saying that yes, Sean will deliver the watch to me. I will give you what money is due back.
Well, Thomas, Chris is a lawyer, right? Like, okay, I understand his concern with giving his watch to a stranger. Like, again, he may not be part of this community like we are. Like, we've been here for years. We know everybody, and who we trust and we don't. So, yeah, maybe the guy's just like, I'm not going to give it to another stranger on the internet because I already got fucked over by one of them. So, what I would do if I were him, I agree with you and Jonathan on taking up Sean's offer. I mean, he's a lawyer. He can easily write up a verbal contract with Sean saying,
absolutely,
if you're going to take the watch, and if the watch doesn't come back, you owe me whatever, $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000 or whatever. And if Sean truly trusts O'Sheen that O'Sheen is going to give the money back, then Sean would not have a worry of signing that and just simply saying, okay, well then Sean is on the hook to owe the money regardless. That's what a quote unquote vouch is. Yeah. And if Sean gets stiff with a watch, I mean, that in and of itself would be not out of the realm of possibility and would obviously cause a really crazy scenario, I'd say. But it's probably his best bet to simply do it that way. And look, I think Sean would honor that and guarantee, I'll guarantee you if the watch if he doesn't pay you, I'll pay you and I'll deal with him. Right. But
I think that's a perfect scenario. As you say, Chris is a lawyer himself. All he needs to do is write up a little contract with Sean and Sheen, and it's a done deal.
He's essentially paying Sean to deliver the watch, right? And if Sean loses in delivery, then boom, Sean owes him the money. Something like that. It doesn't have to be that way, but I mean, there are a lot of options for Chris. I think selling it, Thomas, is one of the worst ones because
that's just ridiculous. That's just berserk to say. Where can I dump this watch? You're gonna lose half your money, over half your money, straight off the bat. And that's conceding defeat. That's all this drama that's gone on. It's pointless.
I think it's a deal gone bad. Like, it's a normal deal. I would have done it differently. You guys would have done it differently. Other people in the chat would have done it differently. Like that's fine. I'm not going to roast the guy for making a mistake. It's just it happens. I've made mistakes. I'm sure you guys have made mistakes.
Oh yeah.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you don't want that publicized over the internet and having bozos like Tim fucking Wright, who knows nothing about watches, trying to commentate on it. Right? Curly is fine. Curly does not a watch guy. Right? He's just there for the interview. I had no problems with the way Curly handled it. Specifically, I think everybody else who's chiming in as watch experts, like, that's what we're going to start dissecting.
That was funny, actually.
Well, yeah, because it's like I intend to give this guy good advice. That's the goal. My intention is not to troll him for fucking 2 weeks. Yeah, it's funny for the first couple of days. Then it kind of is like, okay, guys, like, give the guy some advice and let him move on, right? Like, The fuck. So that's what
I'm richer than you.
Dude, I was like, that has been my favorite line for the past week. Tim G telling him he's richer than him. It's like, really, bro? Like,
Okay, so but Thomas asked a very good question. What things to look after when you're buying or when you're looking for vintage Rolex watches or vintage watches at all? And I have here a very nice example. What you look for. So Tan already mentioned the dial and the hands. We will come back later that that today's technology, you're able to reproduce vintage dials 100%. I have an amazing video. Maybe I'm gonna play it tonight or maybe the next time. But the next thing after the dial and the hand, I'm looking for the lux. I'm looking at the overall shape of the case. Now, Thomas and Tan know that a Rolex Submariner, usually the lugs at the crown part are slimmer than the lugs on the other part where the 9 is. Now, here is a prime example where the lugs have been shaved down or polished down or ground down to a degree where they are so slim that they are slimmer than the lugs on the crown part. So that is the next thing that I'm looking for. How much meat is on the lugs? Because keep in mind, those watches are 55 plus or 50 plus years old, and they usually have a hard life. Then they have owners who can't live with scratches, or maybe they have been passed to 3-4 other people before every sale. Everybody tries to eliminate scratches, and at the end of the day, a watch is totally destroyed, in my opinion, by shaving those lugs down to a ridiculous amount of.
This is so sad. Like, Thomas, this is a more modern Rolex, and it is just so sad to see this. Like, I mean, polishing. Jonathan's right, and the cases are definitely important. Over polishing, you would assume is a thing of the past, but seeing them, this is like just before pre-ceramic. This is pre-ceramic, but like it's not a 50s watch or a 60s watch. It's a lot more. It's a lot newer than that. A lot of butchers out there, but polishing can be done correctly, Jonathan, and there isn't much cause for concern, right? Like this is just a hack job that happened on a sadly a newer watch, right?
Just as an example, my own watch, where you can see that those two lugs on the crown side are slimmer than the ones on the 9 side. That is how it should be, and not like the watch that we've just seen before.
Yeah, I mean, every time you send your watch in for a service, he'll say, we're going to polish it. And
well, that is something that that I personally don't do, or am hesitant to do. And if I do that, I will tell explicitly, don't touch the case. There's no refinishing of the case under no circumstances. I
don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of groupthink that gets sent out on forums, on YouTube. Don't polish, don't polish, don't polish. I want unpolished, right? Even I gave my brother a fucking Hulk, and he's complaining about, keeping it unpolished. I'm like, dude, it's a fucking modern watch. Like, you wear it the way you want to wear it. So what I would tell people is you can polish, but polish less often. So maybe, you might not do it this service. You could do it the following service, whatever it may be. If you're doing it at a reputable place in today's day and age, it should be fine. Specifically, obviously, with the manufacturer is what I mean. So I think that the need for, I don't look, guys, I don't think in 40 fucking years, someone's going to look back and say, oh, that Batgirl was it's unpolished and it's going to be worth like 300 times more. Like, yeah, it'll have a premium. It always will. But it all depends on what it looks like, right? An unpolished watch could look fucking beat to shit. And it just may not be aesthetically pleasing to today's buyer that really wants. I mean, that's the whole point of why people put stickers on watches is they don't want the scratches because they want minty, minty, minty. They don't want beat up. So I'm really curious to think like this whole unpolished shit, it may not even really matter that much in the future. And again, I don't think it's as dangerous as people make it out to be. It was in the past, But I think that could be said for all aspects of watchmaking.
Not sure if I totally agree with you, but you brought up a good point. People who sticker their watches, I'm not sure if Danny stickered his watch. I don't think he did. But people who are running to the AD with every scratch that they have in their watch are certainly not the right people for vintage Rolex watches. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
Because it's very often shocking how they look in real life, because like I said, they are 50 plus years old. They have been worn, they have been used, sometimes abused. Also, they are much lighter than today's watches, which influences your brain, your perception to a very high degree. By comparison to the modern bracelets, the old bracelets really are crap. And it doesn't make it better that they've been then worn for 20, 25 years. The clasps are very tinny. They're very functional, by the way. I'm a big fan of the old clasps because everybody can repair them. Everybody can adjust them. They are cheap to replace, and they are doing a tremendous job by holding the watch on your wrist. So I don't see anything wrong with the old clasp, but it feels much lighter, much less valuable, much less luxury. And many people who are holding a vintage Rolex in hands for the first time are frankly shocked when they compare it to a ceramic Submariner.
Well, that's what this whole story really perplexed me, because I couldn't believe that a younger guy was seeking a vintage Rolex in today's day and age. Like, there's been a massive shift in terms of watch collectors and the condition or the quality of watch that they expect to get. And that's really shifted a lot. Like, when I started collecting, if the watch was a little beat up or was a lot beat up, it was okay. It showed character, it showed originality. People didn't mind that. Yeah, obviously minty watches had a premium, but it was never I have to only get a minty watch, right? So a lot of the buyers have shifted. The mindset of the buyers have shifted today to wanting brand new, needs to stay perfect. Oh my God, if I get a scratch, I got to sell it type shit. Yeah. So that's what, and I agree with you guys. Yeah, they shouldn't be looking at vintage, but it mind boggles me that this guy was looking at it, because it's just not like the reason why I was talking at the start of the show about 5 digits. I was like, man, no one ever talks about 5-digit Rolex anymore. Like, we might as well call it vintage now, because I just don't see it as like, people don't look at it as modern anymore. So, stuff's changed, and I agree with you guys that I just don't think it's for this. It's for most people, right? Maybe it's for him, but not for most people.
Yeah, but I can assure everybody who is shocked when they have their first vintage Rolex in hands. And I remember my first time when I had a 4-digit watch. I grew up. I was selling 5-digit watches usually, and 4 digits really felt shockingly cheap by comparison. But when you keep on looking after them, you will certainly see certain values that you don't get from modern luxury Rolex anymore, because it's a different point of time, different period, different targeting of the watches, different target groups, I would say.
I just don't see the point. It's like, if you don't know that, if you don't know what a vintage piece is going to be like, you probably shouldn't be playing in the game at all, because, like you said, you're going to be up for disappointment, because you may have a standard from modern watches to that. I'm really curious on why they would even look at vintage watches, because generally when you buy vintage watches, at least in the in the near past, it was about the look, right? I want the look. I love the look. The look that you have on this dial was unique. But now, in today's day and age, the modern era, like, faux patina is all over the place. You don't need to buy a vintage watch for the look. They're probably buying it for the exclusivity, for the investment. And if you're going down that road, you better have all your fucking ducks in a row, because you're going to get burned. And look, this is just a case of that happened. It's not sensational. It's not like all fucked up. If O'Sheen doesn't return the money, then it is sensational, I think. Because that's why I said if Sean walked up there with the watch and O'Sheen didn't give him the money back, like that would be a cause for concern. I think O'Sheen has a lot more to lose than 10 grand if he did that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you got another thing on your mind, haven't you? You got a whole new chapter to this fiasco.
So I'm seeing here Curly's comment that you removed my super wrench is a very high sin in my book. But I've seen that you had a lot of questions that nobody really replied. I know that you can behave. So if you want to hop on the show here and ask questions on this particular topic or on the topic of vintage Rolex watches, you're welcome. The link is pinned or the link has been posted. So you're welcome to hop on if you have any questions. And we have here the original OC as well, who upvoted for Jonathan Quill Higgins and the Elite Watch Talk. Thank you very much.
I think the whole scenario. I think Curly's channel handled it well. Curly, like I said, he's not a watch guy, Thomas. Right? Like I'm not expecting Curly to give this guy watch advice. Right? Curly listened to his story. He let him on. Obviously, it was spontaneous. He wasn't expecting that. So
that was spontaneous. Chris jumped on, and Chris asked for the link. I mean, Curly doesn't usually drop the link.
No.
And, Chris jumped on, and then he just listened. Curly just listened and let him explain. And Chris got a lot off his chest, and and spilled the beans. And
I think it was handled. I think it was handled well. And again, allowing Jonathan to hop on and to give his opinions was great. I think that was handled well. I think the other channels out there that are either taking a hard stance of defending O'Sheen or whatever it may be. I've seen a lot of people try to get into the whole watch talk part of this, and I thought that was not handled very well. I think if you don't know, even if you're a content creator, if you don't know much about this stuff, don't act like you do, like, because you're gonna get called out for it, and it's not a good look. I would have gone about Curly's approach and really tried to understand the person's point of view, and just stated, the advice that we've given, right? We've not taken sides. We've just said, hey, this is what I would do if I were you in this scenario, right?
It's turned into not so much about the watch, but about defending the people now.
Yeah. Let me add one thing. When I heard all those defenses, there was one word missing that I'm hearing a lot, that people have been brainwashed. That was something that I missed.
What do you mean by brainwash? Like, who do you feel?
Well, that is usually the accusation when somebody has a problem or has a beef. Then that is the go-to excuse, or to defame or put down any criticism by saying, oh, those people are so brainwashed. And then,
well, look, I told Curly in the chat that night. I said, I'm
not talking about Curly.
No, I know you're not. But in his chat, I had said that day when this whole thing was happening, I said, it might have been the next day, because I don't think I saw this live. It was the next day when he was doing another show. I told him, I said, I expect Tim and Brenny to turn on O'Sheen if this is real. And Curly was like, no, I don't believe they will. And they didn't initially. Tim hasn't. Brenny's said whatever. But again, this has an impact on O'Sheen. And I think what people are seeking, the viewers, they're seeking obviously a sensational story. It can be a sensational story, I think. It all depends how far Chris wants to go to resolve it. If his resolution is just, I'm just going to sell it and take a big hit, fine, right? Chalk it up to a big mistake. It's not really much of anything. It's a nothing burger at that point. Or, if O'Sheen does start fighting back against the refund, that becomes a sensational story. Like, that would pull the Paul Thorpes. That would pull the other people that may want to say something about that because they were, quote unquote, or their friends were, quote unquote, besmirched in the past from O'Sheen having a bad deal himself. So again, people are craving that sensational story. I don't think we're there. I think what, at least for me, when I hopped on, was to give this guy good advice, what I would do, I guess. But it's got the recipe for it. It's just, it all depends how Chris acts and how O'Sheen acts.
We know how you're smelling new dramas. I would like to move on and go to Angie's questions. Are overpolished gold pieces harder to sell than steel? all over-polished watches are harder to sell than steel, I would say. The problem with gold watches is they usually are getting easier scratched or damaged, and the owners have a tendency to have them polished more. To their credit, they are not being worn that often and that hard, just like a steel watch. So I would say it's probably the same. What do you think?
I'd say it depends. Again, Jonathan's right. Like precious metal, you're going to be polishing it. You want to keep it nice. It looks beautiful when it's polished, no doubt. So you will expect some level of polishing in precious metal. What I say it depends is it depends how it looks. If it's been like destroyed, like nobody's going to want the piece. A gold watch, you buy a gold watch for it to be aesthetically pleasing. You're looking at it primarily as jewelry in that sense, right? So it's got to look good. So it really depends. If it's not too bad, yeah, it definitely wouldn't be a problem. You would expect it. If it's too far gone, it could be problematic.
Just replying to Keslowitz, he's saying it's blown out of proportion. All that has to happen is a return label. Well, unfortunately, it's not that easy, because when you're shipping something from the US back to Europe, it will get stopped in tax, in customs, and you will have to pay over 20% of value-added tax when you receive the item. I think that is a main problem, aside of Chris not trusting the Italian authorities.
Well, no, what he's saying is O'Sheen would buy the label, right? O'Sheen would pay in whatever way he can pay from his end to insure it back to him.
Yeah, but it will be stopped at the border, and the Italian customs will demand.
But that's not Chris's problem. That's not Chris's problem.
Yeah, but
right?
but O'Sheen won't accept that. O'Sheen will return that parcel. He will refuse to accept it.
Yeah.
Well,
but
then again,
that another $2,000.
For me, then again, that is a problem on O'Sheen's side, right? Like, just like you're responsible when you buy a watch to pay the duties and taxes coming into the country, like he's taking it back as well. So he needs to facilitate that getting back to him. So I wouldn't say he's in the right to just send it back.
That would imply that he has proper bookkeeping and that he declared properly the watch in the first place.
But this is my point, guys. This is my point. Is that then becomes problematic for O'Sheen? That I think a lot of viewers have an issue with, right? So nothing has occurred yet, but I think we are that close to it actually occurring. If what you guys believe is true, that O'Sheen is just not going to play ball. Right? If I were O'Sheen and I had a lot to lose, 10 grand, I'd play fucking ball. I'd be like, dude, just take the money and walk. I don't want to hear more about this. It's not worth my time. How
realistic do you think that scenario is? Come on, Tan.
Look, it all depends, right? If O'Sheen's primary source of income is his channel, having that kind of scandal, because like I said, there are big players out there that would want to know this, that would be happy maybe that this happened, right? Like, and they would probably talk about it. So O'Sheen's got a lot to lose here. So if his primary source of income is his channel, dude, like, I think he would be a little bit more hesitant to just.
You called me delusional a couple of times in the last weeks. Now I'm calling you delusional. Okay, I agree with Jimmy.
He would just be dumb, right? If he did that, like, that's just stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, but the Irish blood is boiling high, I would say. So, okay, but I want to move away a little bit. But then there are questions that I'm trying not to let by. So I'm a little bit in a pickle here, because I didn't want to make a drama show or make this all about O'Sheen or Chris. My mission or the goal of this particular show was to educate people a little bit more about vintage watches, in particular vintage Rolex watches.
I've got a question for you then to move on. We've talked about over polishing and how it can destroy, the sharp factory lines and the bevel case, and how to look out for soft rounded edges as a sign of being heavily buffed in the past. And, let's talk about bracelet stretch. I mean, if a watch has been worn and it's, someone's worn it it's been their one and done, and they've worn it well, and the case hasn't been damaged, they've looked after the case, but there's inevitably been bracelet stretch on a metal bracelet, and there's been maybe a bit of sagging, a bit of stretching between the links. There's a sign of heavy wear. Well, what do you look out for on that? I mean, obviously, the shape is going to sag when you hold it upright, but not upright, but on its side.
Yeah.
What are the ways of fixing that? Are there any ways of fixing that, or would you heavily avoid anything with bracelet stretch? Would you?
There was that guy in Hong Kong that used to be really good
Yeah.
at it. Forget his
Michael
name.
Young.
Michael Young, yeah. Michael Young.
I visited Michael, and I've seen what he's doing. 1 second, let me.
It's wild because Michael, in more recent years, had a bit of like not great press. Like I remember when I was buying vintage Rolex, he was the guy. If you had bracelet stretch, you'd send it to him. I think I looked into it more recently, Higgins, and I'd heard there was a few, customers that weren't happy with this. I don't know. I don't know if you heard that or if that's, but from what I know about Michael Young, he was top notch for it.
Yeah. Michael Young's secret, or what he does, is he developed a machine that can pull out those links of Rolex bracelets, in particular oyster bracelets. But I think he also created a tool. Everything is possible with 3D printing today. And he sent those tools to his guys in China. So all the bracelets are being sent out to China, then disassembled and repinned. So he's replacing the pin inside of those bracelets. The bracelets are then being touched up, polished, and being sent back. The main problem is there are two parts or two elements in a bracelet that are worn out. First, the pin, and secondly, the link that hugs over that pin. And he can't repair that or replace that. So you're getting a bracelet back, which is in way better condition than it was, but you're still having the risk that this part of the link where the pin is basically going in, that hole wears out, and so it only happens to a certain degree.
So would you clearly avoid buying a watch if you really liked it? If you really liked it, would you clearly avoid buying a watch with?
I was trying to comment on Curly's stream, and I told them you're losing the focus when you're focusing really on the bracelet or the clasp in particular. The clasp hasn't changed for decades on this type of watch, and you can still get spare parts. Yes, the clasp looks bad, but you can find a replacement, and you can replace the clasp with a little amount of money. It's not really a big deal. Bracelets also can be replaced. They are not costing the world compared to a vintage dial that is in perfect shape. And I think that is what I try to say. Don't focus too much on the bracelets because that can be fixed with a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah, I agree with that. It can be fixed. I think it depends on the model. Thomas, if I'm thinking of like buying a 1803 date, so you're talking about a 60s solid gold date. I mean, most of the pieces you're going to see that haven't been either replaced or restored, they're going to have stretch. So there's an expectation of that, and I think it can all be relative, right? Like certain ones may not have as much stretch compared to others, but like Jonathan said, like you can get it restored if you really want to, and maybe that's the case that you would do, right? So it again, it's also your threshold. Some people don't mind it. Some people don't really care, right? Like I said, there's a lot of groupthink around the forums and around YouTube of like things are the big bad wolf, like polishing. The answer is not necessarily. So I always
I was. By the way, I was using a Tropical watch because I wanted to show the sag on the bracelet that he usually shows. Now, when we're talking about solid metal watches, then those bracelets are not that cheap to replace. So you better make sure that the stretch or it's not really stretch, they're worn out, that this is done to a minimum, because basically when those links are starting to crack because they're worn out, there is no way other than melt the bracelet and get a new one. Or
Are you thinking like Royal Oaks?
No, day-dates in particular.
Day-dates,
yeah. You see a lot of totally worn out day-date bracelets.
That's the thing, right? It's I would always love to have gotten an 1803, but even Archie was like, just get a newer one, man. Like, doesn't have to be the newest one, but just get a newer one. You're gonna get, it's just gonna be a lot better of an experience. For me, yeah, the stretch would be a little bit of a problem, but so other people, they wouldn't care. They're just like, fuck it.
So CB says,
sorry, carry on, Jonathan.
Okay, I had many Rolex bracelets restored, and they are perfect. In Italy, they have people that are very good. Agreed. Italy has a great history of doing all kind of restorations and renovations, and they're the masters of all gold chains and gold bracelets. So, if you have a recommendation in Italy, I would be grateful to hear that, because I'm always interested in finding new leads, as they say. Sorry, Tom, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I was just going to say, so talked about bracelets. When buying a vintage watch, how important is it to get a shot of the movement, do you think? And a movement, different parts, really that important? Obviously, it will have been serviced, and different parts will have been added, newer parts. Is it?
You're going to get a different answer from both of us. So I'll start, Higgins, because you're typing.
Yeah.
I would say that what's important is the movement is authentic. That is an important piece. Within authentic, this is where Higgins and I are going to differ. It could be aftermarket parts within an authentic movement. I would say that, yes, if that were discovered, and again, that would require you taking apart the movement probably. If that was discovered, and again, in a sale, that's not traditional. Like, no one's going to take apart the watch anyways. So it's a
Sure.
bit, like you'll get, like if you're on that site that I influenced Higgins to go to, Tropical Watch, they show the movement. They always show a screenshot of the case, generally the case back off. So you'll see the movement, and it'll prove that it's authentic. Now, over time, is there aftermarket parts or newer parts or whatever? That will, yes, affect the value, but it's highly unlikely for it to be substantial if it's ever found out. So I don't believe it would ever be found out at the time of purchase. I think it would be post-purchase, and therefore you may get some money back for that to replace it with genuine parts if they're aftermarket. But at purchase, I don't think so. And therefore, the movement, if you're talking about the movement itself, I don't think, as long as it's authentic, that it's the majority of it's authentic, you could say, is fine. In terms of the bracelet, not so much as well, because a service bracelet of the model, generally, you'll get a little bit of a premium for a period correct bracelet, and obviously more of a premium if it's in mint condition. If you have a service bracelet like the 93510 for the Submariner, it's fine. Like, it's not going to make a buyer blink from paying fair market value. So that's the way I see it, Jonathan. I know you're going to have a different opinion. I wanted to get ahead of your opinion, so prove me wrong.
Thanks for doing that. I'm a little bit paranoid of water damage in Rolex movements, or in general in movements. You can have a rusty movement that is still running good. So I would love to open the case back. Now try that with a seller that you're meeting in person, and you say, would you mind that I open your watch in your presence? That's not going to work. So
yeah,
it is confidence, and it's difficult. But if you give me the choice, I would like to have a look on the movement. But Thomas moved too far, because we're not done with cases at the moment. And I'm really rusty. I failed to to be able to zoom in. But I want to talk about pitting, case pitting for a second. Tan, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So not sure if you see that here at the inner part of the case, you can see corrosion, those little bubbles. And that is a problem on vintage Rolexes. I think as far as they use the old alloy, that was a problem. And in my opinion, the main reason why they moved to 904 is to get rid of that pitting. Now, all Rolex watches are made out of stainless steel. The problem is they're used in salt water, and somehow under the gasket, they're very often or sometimes you can see corrosion building up over the decades, and it's basically eating in the metal of the case underneath the seal, and of course then on a certain degree the seal can't do its job anymore, so you can't make those watches water resistant unless you laser weld everything, build it up, and then polish it or grind it down again. But this is also one of the problems, the pitfalls when you're buying vintage Rolexes. And I can tell you, most of the vintage Submariners and GMTs have that pitting underneath the seal.
Yeah, I would agree. It's tough because you're absolutely right. It's not good for the watch, and you'd have to do a lot of work to get it back to snuff. But I think, again, a lot of collectors, they're not holding these watches for 80 years, right? Like, they're going to hold them for 5, 3, 2, 1, right? Like, that occurring to them during their ownership, I think is unlikely to have any form of a visual effect on them to, like, deter them from enjoying it. I don't think, it's really that much of a problem. And the reality, Jonathan, is they probably don't even know it's there. They probably don't really know what it is. It looks a little old, right? Like, they're not gonna fucking know, and they're not gonna care, dude.
When they realize it's there, then it's too late.
Well, the reason I agree with this is so in other hobbies that I collect in, and I'll use comic books, specifically comic books. The staples often rust. The staples often rust on books, and the rust bleeds into the pages. So people will avoid certain books that have rusted staples just because of that, right? Like, but again, the question is it going to affect you when you own it? If you're only going to own it for a short period of time, which is most people, I don't think so.
I finally managed to work here a little bit, but still my zoom function doesn't work on the mouse. Okay, so Thomas, did you know about the pitting in the movements? Any comments on that?
I've heard of it. I don't know that much about it, but it's where the metal is, as you say, gets affected by.
It's getting eaten.
Water ingress. Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Yeah. What other aspects do we have?
I think the only topic we didn't go too deep in was restoration. Like in certain vintage watch collecting, restoration's okay. In vintage Seiko specifically, if you restore, you relume the hands, it's often considered more desirable than one that you left with. The terminology is called wabi, which is very bad, like greenish black looking loom. Like it's not aesthetically pleasing. So in the vintage Seiko collecting world, like they're totally fine with you reluming it so that it looks nice and it actually could command some better value. In vintage Rolex, it's like the cardinal sin.
It's totally ugly and awful. And I think Chris's watch has that kind of green loom. Mm-hmm. I never understood if they really seriously loomed it green, or if that is something with UV light, or if the hands are corroding to a degree that turns the loom green. That is something that I never really...
It's in bad shape, but if he relooms the hands, he's going to take a value hit from it being all original, right? Like there is... And again, that could be... It could be that maybe makes it worth a little bit more than if it was kept original, right? Maybe our 6.5 figure is too high and people pay 5 for it. But if he got it reloomed and it looked a little nicer, maybe he could get 6.5, right? That's subjective, and you really need to know that market to make that call. But if you don't, and I don't know it that well either, I would just shy away from restoration because it is a gamble. It's going to definitely hit the value, even though you're going to make your watch look better. But Thomas, Jonathan, like if that was your watch and you said, I'm not planning to sell it, I'm just going to keep this and enjoy it guilt-free, then at that point, it doesn't really matter, right? Just do you and buy, do the restoration if you want to keep it, right? Like that's the only time I'm going to say you should do the restoration.
Yeah. Yeah, or if it's a really rare watch that you can't get an alternative, which is not the case in the 5513. We said that before.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, Thomas, this is where Higgins goes with outlandish examples, right? if you had a very rare, let's say it's a 2523 world time from Patek Philippe, you're not going to go to like your fucking local watchmaker and be like, "Hey, restore this." You're going to send it to Patek Philippe. You're going to send it to Rolex. You're going to send it to Rolex. Like, and at that point, yeah, of course, like that, they're going to restore it to a point where its value could be higher at auction because of them doing it, right? So, yeah, I think it really depends. But like that case is just completely outlandish, Higgins. Like, it's not the normal person.
Okay. I'm gonna try it again. I see here J Gray Sweater in the comments. J Gray, I'm hearing that your health is not too good. I'm sending you my best wishes. I always love when you're on.
Best wishes, mate.
Sorry?
Oh, I didn't realise that. But best wishes, yeah. Get well soon, mate.
Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, I interrupted now, everybody. So yeah, I think we had at the beginning we said, okay, here with the example of this 5513, yeah, make sure that this is all original. To a certain degree, with today's technology, you also have to trust the seller a little bit, because I've seen a video. I don't think that there is a point of playing it right now because it's very late. But basically, there is a guy who is scanning defective dials with a scanner. Then he removes the tritium in a process, and then he basically scratches everything off. He then repaints the dial, and then he reprints everything with a laser printer, and the results are just mind-blowing. I think Tan saw the video, and it's really mind-blowing. It just looks perfect. Too perfect in my.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is it depends what you're looking for, right? Like if it's gonna be like completely brand new, like just go to Rolex and like I mean at that point just go to Rolex, send it to RSC and get a new dial, right? Like I wouldn't be
if they give you one, a vintage one.
Yeah, they may not have a dial for 5513, so you may get a more modern pre-ceramic dial or something, but yeah, I mean it can be done through Rolex at that point. Like when he was talking about, I'm going to send it to a restorer, I was like, this sounds like some Archie luxury shit. Like when Archie bought that fucking Royal Oak years ago, took it to his local like butcher. I remember him doing the video, and then all the screws on the they were all misaligned, right? Like because there's a certain pattern that it goes through, right? Like as they do it, so it was all misaligned. And he's showing, he's like, oh, I got my watch back. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
But so, that is within character. Archie being so tight, giving such an idiot such a watch. And
well, that's my point, right? Is it seems like Chris, he's got some money, right? And at that point, like, you could just send it to RSC, and get it just done up by Rolex to the standards. Like, is it going to be, how much of it's still going to be vintage? I don't know, right? Like that's another option. There's so many options for this guy. If he's trying to maximize his dollar, literally get a ticket, go to Venice, or go through Sean, go to Venice, get your money back. Like there's no way you're selling this watch for what you got for it. There's just no way.
And it's also it's a constant pain in the rear. I had watches where I had bad memories to people or to events, and I'm just getting rid of them. because I don't want to be bothered. To me, watches are emotional. I'm connecting watches to certain events, and I don't want to be bothered with bad memories or connected bad memories with a certain watch.
Do you really believe in the bad juju for the watches? Like,
no, not bad juju. I'm not talking about bad juju, but I'm talking about bad memories or bad,
Dirk
bad
Diggler was talking
connected.
about this. He was talking about like cursed watches or whatever, right? Like,
no, I'm not.
Just people believe that, right? They believe that a watch could be like giving them bad luck. Or look, I mean, I've had watches where sometimes the luck wasn't going that well after I picked that one up. So I don't know. There's some people who believe in that. When you said that, I was like, well, hold on. Higgins believes in the cursed watch.
I haven't said that. You're trying to construct a story and tomorrow run a Lux report.
Okay. So you don't believe
I know
in
exactly what you're doing.
So then you don't believe in it.
No.
Okay. Right.
No.
Some people do. Some people feel that the watch brings them luck. I mean, we heard it from that guy Nub Gunner, who hopped on Archie's. I don't know if you saw those streams, Jonathan, but he would hop on. And he's like, ever since I bought my Explorer, like, he had gone through a really bad divorce, and he's like, oh man, like everything's going great. I'm banging, all these kind of women and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
he believed that the Explorer was driving his good luck. I was like, man, like it's
when it works, it works.
ABC's talking about the evil eye in the chat. I mean, I don't think the evil eye is specific to an object. I could be wrong, ABC, but I don't think an object is gonna, give you some bad luck. But just some people believe it, and it's sensational to see it. Like, when Nub Gunner is just like, man, my life just turned around ever since I got the Explorer. I'm like, nah, it could just be that you actually turned your life around, dude. Like, and the Explorer is just on, along for the ride.
Thomas, do you have a watch that gives you superpowers?
I don't really. No.
Oh, come on. That Breguet must make you feel like a rock star.
Yeah. The Breguet makes me feel good. That gives me superpowers. Yeah.
But I think that's what it's about, Thomas, right? I do believe, and this is why people probably believe that there is like Jonathan said, there's an emotional aspect to it. And putting even for me, it's as surprising as this could be, putting on a Rolex sport watch with an oyster bracelet, like it just hits. And there's nothing that's going to take away that and makes you feel good, right? Like, I think the emotional aspect is real, and it goes both ways, right? Good or bad.
I would like to come to the Breguet man and that infamous clip that Archie made in front of the Breguet boutique. Do you remember that? The Breguet man waddle?
I love that. The
catwalk.
The catwalk.
No, I call it the Breguet man waddle.
The catwalk.
And you may know that daughter Jamie and we've been in Hong Kong, and one day we traveled to Shenzhen to have Peking duck in that famous restaurant where Archie is also having the Peking duck, and the Peking duck is fantastic, excellent, everything.
I thought you were going to tell me you have a video of you guys like
wait
doing the walk.
Wait. That's not the thing.
Oh shit!
So behind that restaurant, there is a shopping center, a super modern, posh, super luxury shopping center, and there is this certain Breguet boutique where Archie did that Breguet waddle, and and I talked Jamie into doing it, and I have a 10-second clip of Jamie reenacting the Archie luxury waddle. He has my word that I will never publish it, but Jamie, whenever you stab me in the back, I will play that clip.
That's all Higgins needs is collateral.
You can't tease us and not show it.
I need Jamie's permission, but Jamie was so embarrassed doing it. I doubt that you will ever get the permission, and probably my telephone will now run hot of messages from Jamie cursing me out of even mentioning it.
Oh.
All right, boys, I got to run. I think it's getting late. I'll let you wrap up the show. Thank you for having me on, Higgins.
Thank you for joining, and thank you for asking all the questions.
Great to chat, Tom.
It was always a pleasure, Thomas, to hang out with you, and obviously, sorry, Danny. I'm going to bounce and let you wrap up, Higgins, and I'll see you guys next time.
Have a good weekend, Bye-bye. Bye, 10.
So basically, to round up, you got to buy the seller when you buy a vintage watch, haven't you? You got to.
Yeah. I mean, with vintage, there is even more confidence involved in those deals than if you're buying a new watch or a used modern watch, because we just try to illustrate what can be done and what is being done with vintage watches. And by the way, the Italians unfortunately have a very bad reputation in manipulating vintage Rolex watches. They love vintage Rolex watches, but everything that can be done to misrepresent, to make a little bit of money out of those watches, or even more money, that is being done, particularly in Italy. They have all the skilled artisans, but they also have the ruthless people who do everything to make a quick buck. And so, in my opinion, it's not really a good idea to buy a vintage watch in Italy at all with certain people.
So buy the seller, make sure you got a return policy.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. Yes. Yeah. So Chili Badger wants to pivot to marzipan and gâteau. Not tonight, maybe another time, maybe on the next Christmas stream. So Horatan is saying thank you. I think we're almost done, unless you have something.
One last
Yes.
question. When you bought the seller and you got your watch, servicing your watchmaker, is it okay to trust any old watchmaker, or should you search out a dedicated watchmaker like Tropical Watch, like you were saying?
Well, if in doubt, then always go to a reputable guy, because there are a lot of shady people. I remember one guy who ruined me, an Explorer 2 dial for me, by not setting the 24-hour hand correctly, and basically the hand was rubbing on the dial and destroyed the dial. So that was the time when my regular watchmaker said he's retiring, he's not going to work anymore. So I had to search for somebody else to put that dial and those hands in, and I paid the price very quickly. So I'm glad that my regular watchmaker came back and still works for me. But it's very difficult to find good watchmakers that you can really trust. And when they do a mistake, it costs you a lot of money, because no watchmaker is going to pay for those mistakes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, that wraps up, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the summary of today's show is we pinpointed a little bit on the aspects that you should watch out when you're looking for vintage Rolex watches. Be warned, it's very, very dangerous. You need a lot of knowledge, and you never stop learning. That is something that I learned, and I'm always trusting in the experts and not famous YouTube sellers or people who are hip. I'm seeing all those developments now, those 47th Street sellers who have a behavior that make me question, would I spend $500 or $200 on those guys? I mean, this is also a question of trust, and I wouldn't do that. So not everybody who screams out the loudest is the most spectacular, is the most trustworthy. I think that lesson has been learned latest when TPG went to jail, and we should all be a little bit more reasonable selecting the people that we trust.
Sure.
Okay, with that said, I would like to thank Tan for co-hosting the show. Thanks, Thomas, for hopping on. Thanks, Serdi Danny, for hopping on. Thank you very much to everybody here in the chat. I didn't find Bufari's chat. I saw that Bufari's was also in the chat, which made me very happy. So a lot of the OG guys are there. Just Morty hopped on. Hello, Morty. Good to see you. I think we are wrapping up this show. Please like, subscribe, and tell your friends. And hope that this has been educational, educationable, and not too boring for everybody. So you have a good night.
Never is on the Elite Heraldry channel, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, happy birthday to Morty. And with that, we're saying goodbye, maybe until the next time. Bye-bye.
Great show.